Imagine it's 1890. You're standing inside a crowded cabaret in Paris. The air is thick. Smoke, perfume, sweat. Glasses clink. Someone laughs too loudly behind you. Maybe they've had too much champagne. The lights from the chandeliers dim. Music swells and the dancers take the stage in a spectacle of high fashion and uninhibited energy. Layers of petticoats and ruffles fly, legs kick impossibly high, feathers flutter, bodies move in precise chaos, a blur of leaps, spins, athleticism, and undeniable life. You are watching. Everyone is watching. This is the Moulin Rouge. It opened in 1889 and quickly became one of the most famous entertainment venues in the world. Tourists packed the room. Artists sketched from the shadows. Moralists complained loudly, but came anyway. Paris, at this moment in history, loved to look. What most people don't realize is that just a few miles away, at the edge of the Ile-de-Cité, beneath the steady gaze of Notre Dame, another attraction was drawing crowds just as reliably. This one didn't feature dancers. It featured the dead. Welcome to Death Becomes Her, the podcast where we discuss grief, death, and dying from a variety of angles. I'm your host, Layla Kelly. It was the Belle Époque in Paris, literally the beautiful era. Paris was transforming. Boulevards widened, arcades glittered, cafes spilled into the streets. Electricity extended the night. Gustave Eiffel and his men are creating a latticework of iron that will become an icon of Paris. Entertainment was everywhere, and so was novelty. World's fairs, wax museums, medical exhibitions, cabarets. The city trained its inhabitants to consume experience visually, to stroll, to observe, to linger. Which brings us to one of the most important figures of this era, the flâneur. Maybe that's a new term for you. It was for me. I didn't know the word, but I knew the character. Usually depicted as a man, the flâneur was a distinctly Parisian creation. Artists like Manet, Degas, and Toulouse-Lautrec painted his gaze. Writers described it. Philosophers analyzed it. Usually imagined as a middle-class man with time on his hands, the flâneur wandered the city with no destination in mind. An urban explorer of sorts. His purpose was observation. He was a collector of moments, gestures, scenes. He watched the crowds without joining them. He noticed details without intervening. He remained emotionally adjacent, but not involved. Looking was not passive, though. Looking was participation, just at a safe distance. You could find him watching at the Moulin Rouge, observing Eiffel build his tower, strolling in the parks. He was everywhere, including the morgue, which of course is what I'm here to talk about. The Paris Morgue first opened its doors to the public in 1804. In 1864, a new, larger morgue opened near Notre Dame, on the banks of the River Seine. This was an excellent location. For one, it was ideally located for fishing bodies out of the river. Two, it was modern, functional, and crucially, intentionally designed with large windows. If you try to conjure an image of a modern morgue, you're likely imagining an enclosed room, often in a basement, maybe fluorescent lights. Large windows and morgues don't usually go hand in hand. But this wasn't the case in Paris. You stood on one side of the glass. On the other side, bodies were laid out on slanted marble slabs. Their clothing hung above them like evidence. A steady trickle of water ran over the corpses, slowing decay. You could step closer. Anyone could. And that's exactly what the people did. The morgue was open every day from dawn to early evening. Admission was free, and up to 40,000 people visited daily. Émile Zola called it the show that was affordable to all, and people treated it exactly that way. If the slabs were empty, visitors complained. If the deaths were gruesome, the crowds were larger. Sigmund Freud wrote, "I don't think they know the meaning of shame or fear. The women, no less than the men, crowd round nudities as much as they do round corpses in the morgue." Even the children were lifted up to get a better view. Street vendors sold snacks outside. This wasn't hidden. It wasn't taboo. It was civic. It was normalized. And it was entertainment. And yet, there was a crucial emotional condition. The dead were anonymous. Anonymous death is easy to look at. The morgue asked very little of its visitors. You didn't have to know the deceased. You didn't have to grieve. You didn't have to feel anything beyond curiosity and maybe a little fleeting horror. The glass mattered. It created distance, it framed the body, and it turned death into a scene rather than a relationship. People could experience intensity without responsibility, emotion without obligation. And Paris wanted more. By the late 19th century, Paris was already comfortable living among the dead. Beneath the city lay the catacombs. Millions of bones stacked with artistic precision. Originally, they were a practical solution to a very real problem, which was overflowing cemeteries and public health risk. If you've listened to my episode, Those Resourceful Parisians, you've heard this story already, how the city solved a crisis with incredible ingenuity. But by the 1890s, the catacombs weren't just infrastructure anymore. They were atmosphere. In the spring of 1897, a select group of musicians, journalists, and cultural figures received secret invitations to attend a late-night concert deep underground. The performance took place in the Rotonde de Tibias, a cramped chamber that was lined floor to ceiling with bones, featuring a central pillar that is neatly decorated with skulls and human tibias, or your shin bones. Music echoed off the skulls, works like Chopin's Funeral March and Saint-Saëns' Danse Macabre. Candles flickered. Death surrounded the audience completely. This wasn't public spectacle like the morgue. This was curated and elite. And yet, the same rules applied. The bones were anonymous. No faces, no names, no stories asking to be held. A pattern is emerging. Look at what Paris offered during this period. The Moulin Rouge, lively bodies on display. The morgue, dead bodies behind glass. The catacombs, bones without identity. And the flâneur, the professional observer of all of it. Different settings, same elements. Watch, but don't engage. Feel something, but not too much. Be close, but never implicated. This wasn't moral failure, it was a very human strategy. And we still do it. Our modern voyeurism, the same impulse, new medium. Today, we scroll. We consume true crime. We replay tragedies. We search for crime scene photos tied to famous deaths. We binge documentaries where violence is carefully edited, narrated, and resolved. The dead are still distant, still mediated, and still safe. What we resist, often fiercely, is proximity. When it comes to our own dead, we often say things like, I don't want to remember them like that. I don't want that image in my head. I'd rather not see. I have heard these phrases time and time again. Usually they're said with a tone of absolution, a quick dismissal of a topic that just seems too heavy. And yet we will look enthusiastically at death that doesn't ask anything of us. This is where I want to slow down. Why we avert our eyes from our own dead. Because this isn't hypocrisy. It's really much more about vulnerability. Seeing someone you love dead is not spectacle. It's reckoning. It collapses the distance, it demands a relationship, and it changes the story. The Paris Morgue didn't require grief. Your loved one does. And so when people tell me they're unsure about viewing, about washing a body, or sitting with a body, or just being present, I don't hear avoidance. I hear fear, maybe a fear of being changed, a fear of the unknown. Whatever it is, it usually feels like the conversation is pushing up against some form of fear. And I think that is worth sitting with. If you're facing a death, or you know that you will someday, I want to offer a few gentle questions. This isn't necessarily about answers. Instead, it's simply an invitation and an opportunity to reflect. You might ask yourself, what do I think I'm protecting myself from by not looking? What stories about death did I inherit? And what might those stories be doing to shape my current feelings? Am I afraid of the image, or am I afraid of the feeling? Does avoidance align with my values or my fears? And finally, if I imagine myself years from now, what choice do I think I'll wish I had made? There are no correct responses to any of this. Viewing is not mandatory, and your participation or your lack of participation is not a test. But reflecting on it does matter. It's the unconscious choices that often shape grief more than conscious ones. Our unconscious thoughts can trigger rapid, automatic behaviors that can make us feel like we're out of control. A little reflection can go a long way toward helping us to understand what we're feeling and how we can move forward with those feelings and with our grief. Paris once turned death into theater, into art, into spectacle. And we're not so different. The question isn't whether we look, it's what kind of looking we choose. Do you choose detached observation or meaningful presence? Which is right for you? As you reflect on these questions, here's one more thing to remember. Talking about death won't kill you. I promise. Thank you for listening to Death Becomes Her. We can continue this conversation as well as conversations on lots of other topics on the socials. You can find me on Instagram as Leaving Well Death Doula or on TikTok as Death Doula Layla. I'll see you there.